Sweat stung his eyes, blurring his vision and making it hard to focus. The air reeked of blood and fear, a nauseating mix that made his stomach churn. His head throbbed with a dull, persistent ache. Opening his eyes, he saw chaos. Bodies clashed, swords clanged, and the cries of the wounded filled the air. Men, clad in leather and bronze, clashed around him, their faces twisted in grim determination. He struggled to rise, his limbs heavy, unfamiliar. Every movement felt like lifting weights. His hand instinctively went to his chest, expecting the reassuring hum of his temporal regulator, the device that kept him anchored in time. There was only silence. Panic welled up within him, a cold, creeping dread that threatened to overwhelm his senses. He was Sergeant Rex Stone, a soldier from the year 2345, trained for missions across time. He shouldn't be here. This wasn't his time. The ancient battlefield was a stark contrast to his advanced training. Rex looked down at his hands. They were bare, his advanced combat suit gone. He felt strangely vulnerable, exposed. His gaze fell upon a discarded shield, its bronze surface dull with age, a relic of a time long past. He picked it up, the metal cold and heavy in his hands. It was a poor substitute for his lost gear, but it would have to do. Around him the battle raged, a maelstrom of violence and chaos. He had to get his bearings, figure out where and when he was. The disorientation was overwhelming. He remembered the mission briefing, the temporal coordinates for ancient Rome, the year 79 AD. It was supposed to be a routine mission, but something had gone wrong, terribly wrong. The mission had spiraled out of control. He had to find his team, the other Chronocore soldiers. They were his only hope of making it back. They were his only hope of getting back to his time. Without them, he was lost. But first he had to survive this brutal, chaotic battle. The odds were stacked against him. The ground trembled beneath his feet, a reminder of the ever-present danger. He looked up to see a wall of horsemen charging towards him, their swords glinting in the afternoon sun. A terrifying sight. Rex raised his shield, a desperate act of self-preservation. He braced himself for the impact. He was a soldier, trained for combat, but nothing could have prepared him for this. The ancient world was a brutal, unforgiving place. Time travel. Once a scientific impossibility, it was now a reality, a marvel of human ingenuity and technological advancement. This incredible feat was harnessed by the Chronocore, an elite team dedicated to safeguarding the integrity of history. Rex had eagerly volunteered for the Corps, driven by a burning desire to explore the vast tapestry of time and uncover its secrets. He had undergone rigorous training, learning to adapt to different eras, different cultures, and the myriad challenges they presented. But nothing could have prepared him for the raw terror of being untethered from his own time, lost in the annals of history. The mission was simple. Observe and report on the catastrophic eruption of Mount Vesuvius, a pivotal moment in ancient history. The temporal regulators, worn like bracelets, were supposed to ensure their safety, allowing them to witness history without altering it, a delicate balance of observation and non-interference. But his regulator was silent, its chronometer dark, leaving him stranded and vulnerable. He had no idea how long he had been stranded in this brutal past, surrounded by chaos and destruction. He remembered the blinding flash of light, the disorientation, and then waking up amidst this carnage, a nightmare come to life. His hand instinctively went to the small pouch at his side, a lifeline in this hostile environment. He carried emergency rations and a basic medkit, standard issue for all Chronocore operatives, but more importantly, a small encrypted communication device, his only hope for rescue. If he could get to a high point, he might be able to send a distress signal, a beacon in the darkness. But first, he had to survive this battle, a fight for his very existence in a time not his own. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Rex quickly learned to adapt to his new surroundings, his survival instincts kicking in with every passing day. He traded his futuristic knowledge for food and shelter, using his wits to navigate the ancient world, careful not to reveal too much about his true origins, always aware of the delicate balance of time and the potential consequences of his actions. He found himself in Rome, the heart of the empire, a city teeming with life and danger. The Colosseum loomed large, a monument to both Roman power and cruelty, casting a long shadow over the city. Its presence was a constant reminder of the empire's might and the brutality that came with it. He had seen enough historical records to recognize the signs of a city on the brink of chaos. Rome was on the edge, with Emperor Titus losing his grip on power. The whispers of rebellion and conspiracy filled the air, growing louder each day. Rex knew he was just a ghost, a silent observer in this grand play of history, but his knowledge of the future, of the events that were to unfold, weighed heavily upon him. He found work as a laborer, his strength surprising the other men. He kept his head down, avoided questions about his past, and tried to blend in. Yet his knowledge of future events, things he let slip inadvertently, marked him as different. People began to whisper, some calling him a prophet, others a sorcerer. Rex knew that suspicion could be as dangerous as any sword in this time. He had to find a way back to his own time, before his presence inadvertently altered the course of history. The weight of his knowledge and the danger it posed was a constant burden. He knew he had to be careful. Every word, every action could have unforeseen consequences. The stakes were high, and the margin for error was slim. Rex was determined to find a way back, to correct the course of history and return to his own time. The journey ahead was fraught with danger, but he knew he had no other choice. He had to find a way back to his own time, before his presence inadvertently altered the course of history. The fate of the future depended on his actions in the past. One evening, amidst the smoky haze of a tavern, Rex overheard a conversation. A group of men, their faces hidden in the shadows, spoke in hushed tones of a plot against the Emperor, a conspiracy that threatened to plunge Rome into chaos. The name that sent chills down Rex's spine was that of the mastermind, Cassius, a name that echoed through history as the man who would bring about the fall of Rome. Rex felt a cold dread creep up his spine. This was it, the event that would change the course of history. He knew he should stay away, that his mission was to observe, not interfere, but he was a soldier, sworn to protect life, to uphold justice. Could he stand by and watch history unfold, knowing he could prevent a tragedy? The paradox gnawed at him. If he intervened, he would be altering the very fabric of time. But if he did nothing, countless lives would be lost, the future forever altered. The weight of the decision pressed down on him with the force of a collapsing star. The ground rumbled ominously. A plume of smoke rose from the distant peak of Mount Vesuvius, a harbinger of the catastrophe to come. Rex knew that Pompeii, a bustling city nestled at the foot of the volcano, was living on borrowed time, unaware of its fate. He had seen the haunting images of the city frozen in time, its inhabitants entombed in ash, forever captured in their final moments. He couldn't save Pompeii. It was a fixed point in time, an event that had to happen, a historical inevitability. But perhaps he could use his knowledge to save lives, to warn the people of Pompeii, to give them a fighting chance to survive. But doing so risked exposing himself, risking further disruption of the timeline and its delicate balance. He was trapped in a cruel paradox, forced to bear witness to the horrors of the past while grappling with the consequences of altering the future. His mind raced, desperately searching for a solution, a way to fulfill his duty without unraveling the delicate threads of time. The decision came upon him as swiftly and mercilessly as a Roman legion. He had found a way to repair his temporal regulator, a risky maneuver using scavenged Roman materials and his knowledge of future technology. It was a long shot, but it was his only chance of returning to his own time. But the cost was high. To repair the regulator, he needed a rare crystal, one rumored to be in the possession of Cassius, the very man plotting to overthrow the Emperor. It was a suicide mission. Even if he managed to retrieve the crystal, there was no guarantee the regulator would work. And even if it did, by stopping Cassius, by saving the Emperor, he would be altering the course of history. He would be playing God with time. He thought of his family, his friends, the life that awaited him in the year 2345. He thought of the oath he had taken to protect history, even at the cost of his own life. Time, it seemed, demanded a steep price. The air crackled with energy as Rex activated the repaired temporal regulator. He had infiltrated Cassius's inner circle, retrieved the crystal, and escaped with his life. Standing now at the foot of the erupting Vesuvius, the ground trembling beneath his feet, he felt the familiar tug of the temporal vortex. He had a choice to make: step into the unknown, back to his own time, or stay and face the consequences of his actions. As the vortex swirled around him, Rex closed his eyes, the echoes of the past whispering in his ears. His decision echoed with the weight of centuries. He had journeyed through time, witnessed the grandeur and brutality of ancient Rome. He had stared into the abyss of history, and emerged forever changed. The ending is left intentionally open, allowing the reader to decide Rex's fate. Does he step into the vortex, returning to his own time forever haunted by his experiences in the past? Or does he stay, choosing to face the consequences of his actions and carve his own destiny in the annals of history?